Hey guys, welcome back to another clip of Schach-manuel-lernen. Today with the second round of the Railway Chess Championship. After the first round we lost 6-0 against India. They were much better, so no surprise. We faced Denmark in the second round, and let's see how we played against them. I played again on board number 2 with the black pieces. So after c4 played g6, g3, bishop to g7, bishop g2, d6, then e4, e6, knight to ge2, knight to e7, castle, castle. And now white played d3, which is a bit passive, because I expected d4, which would be more aggressive. And after d3 I thought fighting for the center with c5, especially for the d4 square. And after bishop e3 I played knight to e5. The idea is he can't play d4 because I can capture on c4. And if he plays f4, I can play knight to g4, attacking the bishop and having this square. And if he retreats something like that, then I won quite some important tempi. That's why white played h3, that the knight can't go on g4. And after f5, f4, I retreated my knight, rook b1, and then knight to d4. The idea was if white captures with the knight, it would lose a piece because the pawn attacks both pieces and it's defended. And if he would capture with the bishop, I can recapture with pawn. And after something like that, I'm happy to play with the bishop pair. White played bishop f2. Then I strengthened the knight on d4. And here the best move for white would have been capturing. And after capturing a3 with the idea of b4, and to play maybe against this pawn on e6. However, he captured with the knight, I captured with the pawn, knight to e2, then I captured there, bishop captured, e5 to strengthen the center and also to attack h3. He retreated the bishop, bishop e6, capture, capture. Now this pawn is a bit weak. I was aware of that, but I thought I have a bit counterplay with this one, and then also with doubling the rooks on the f file. He played g4. We will see in the next move why he played this move. So here I should have go for the complications with h5, and after knight h3 I can capture, rook f4. The idea is to attack this pawn and to have active counterplay. Instead I followed a different idea, which is worse, bishop h6. I thought to put my bishop either here or on f4. And sometime I thought you have this different tactics. Let's say you capture here, and when the rook captures I can go on e3 with the pin on this diagonal. After knight to g3, that was the reason why he played g4, that he can come to this outpost. So I played queen e7, queen to e2, bishop f4, knight goes there, and now rook f7, bishop g3. And now I guess I could have just captured, and after capturing, playing maybe this. Of course he can capture here, and after capture he wins a pawn, but I'm not sure how good it is. Yeah, okay, but it's a pawn, so I can't be that reckless. So yeah, maybe I should play something like queen to g5 for counterattack. But yeah, this pawn here is a weakness in my position. That's undiscussable. So yeah, here just doubling, and yeah. But in the game, I played g5, which is a mistake, because I calculated that after capturing I can capture with the e-pawn. And yeah, white has here a tactic because of this pin here. So he can capture on g5. And now my queen is overloaded because I can't defend the bishop and capture the knight. So let's say if I would capture, he could just capture the bishop. And then he just wins a pawn. Which means I should have recaptured with the g-pawn. But then the e5 pawn is just terrible, like very, very terrible. That's why g5 at first place was a bad move. Because after g5 and he takes, I have to recapture with the g-pawn. But in the game g5 he captured, I played e takes f4 and of course he saw it. Then I had to capture the knight, he captured and just won a pawn. And beside that he's now also controls the file. I would like to play rook e7, but the rook is pinned, so no chance about that. King g7, then the easiest way for white would have been capturing there and just grab a second pawn. And just the line I show you that I calculated. f3, sacrificing the rook. Queen f4, but he can just give it back the rook. And then, yeah, this rook endgame is just lost. So here he played bishop to e4. And now here I get some counterplay. I should have played immediately knight to e5. The idea is to go to f3 or to push f3 by myself. Or even in the right moment playing h5 and sacrificing the knight here. Depends a bit. I played rook f6, queen d5. I don't want to trade queens. Rook f3, and now rook e8 I missed. I should have played it with the idea that you see, because this is quite strong and he doesn't have a lot against it. Because if he plays something like that, I can just play rook here. And let's say if he goes, I don't know, here, then I can continue my plan. And if he goes back, then I have f3, and then suddenly black is much better. So that's why rook e8 is the right plan, that I can bring the knight on e5 and closer to the king. Instead I played rook d8, queen c5, b6, queen b5. And then I defended the knight, and then he captured, and yeah, he should just keep on playing with the queens on the board, and then we would play, yeah, something like that, but white is much better still. However, here my opponent decided to trade the queens because he thought this rook endgame is winning because of my pawns are a bit weaker, but we will see it's not that easy for both sides. So let's say rook c, e6, king f2, king h6, activating the king and attack the pawn. Rook g1, rook e3. To capture would be terrible because then I would have suddenly a passed pawn. And well, here he played rook to g4 to grab this pawn. But I said, okay, I can capture here, and after capture, trading a pair of rooks, and capture on d3, b4, capturing h3, sacrificing the d4 pawn, but after this check I win the a2 pawn. So now I'm a pawn up, so the endgame is a bit better, and what he does is absolutely correct. He plays c5, which gives an equal position, because rook endgames are always really tough to play. So I captured, then putting the rook behind the pawn. Rook to d5, king to g4. I didn't want to play king g6 because otherwise he can just push his pawn further. So I played king to g4, he gave a check, king h5, rook h4. Now we have to be careful. If we would be greedy and capture this pawn, we would lose our rook. So let's say king has to go away and then he can just capture it. So careful about that. Here it was quite tough to play. Like I played king g6, which is best move, but by best play this is a draw. King d3, rook to c1 to stay behind the pawn. Now he offered a rook trade, and well, if I don't trade the rooks, let's say like that, then my rook will just become much more passive than his rook. And at the right moment, he can just sacrifice this to winning this. And when only the h pawn or the a pawn survives, then it's a draw. Like I knew that, and that's why I captured the rook. And then, yeah, here you can pause the video if you want to find the right move. It's not easy to see. Like I have to go with the king to the pawn to stop him, but there are two ways. Either I can go with f6 or f7, and one loses and one wins. I just show you the variation that would lose, like king f7, and then he can play this one. And then let's say I go there, he can play king c6, and then at the end he can make a queen with a check. If I go here, then he goes king a6, and after h5 c6, when I go there, he's again faster. And the last variation, if I go here, he also plays it, and after this he comes with a check, and then he makes a queen and he's much faster than I. And what would have been correct is king f6, because now if he plays king b5, the small difference is this one, and if he goes now to c6, my king is here, and not on e6. So when we make now a pawn race, we both promote to a queen, and then it's a draw. So that's a small difference. In the game, however, I made the mistake, but luckily my opponent played king d5, and after king e7, king c6, I run with my pawn, and then here we both make a queen. And after he captured the pawn, we agreed for a draw, because queen against queen is 99.9% a draw. So it was a really intense game, again on the board 2. Was happy that after a worse position I could convert it into a draw. It was also really important because the team won at the end 3.5 to 2.5 to Denmark. So yeah, we recovered from the loss against India. And next weekend I will show you the third round. So stay tuned how it continued, the tournament. And stay healthy. Wish you a wonderful weekend and see you soon, guys.